We are back with more My Southern Home, and I'm here with Sara Jimenez with Somm in the City. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm really excited to have you back on the show because it's fall and people are starting to invite people to their home for the holidays.
Yes, fall is honestly my favorite time of year, not only because of the wines, it's really that transition from warm summer into that sort of crisper fall, and I feel like there are wines that perfectly pair with the season. As we're transitioning into that September, October, those October months, we really want to focus on wines that would be great for all palates. And so I brought a selection here today that was going to complement the seasons. These are definitely my go-to transition wines for fall.
So what are the wines that you have here?
Yes, so these are the wines that I brought today that I think are ideal for transitioning into fall. So I always like to start with the cava. Any type of sparkling wine is something I love to have in my fridge. You never know when a friend's gonna pop over and you have to make an impromptu charcuterie board. Cava is my go-to Spanish sparkling wine. It's easy to drink, it's light, it's that perfect transition again from summer to fall. Then I like a Chiaretto. Now rosé is one of those wines I drink year round. But there are certain types of rosés that I like over other ones, and especially when it comes to seasonality. Chiaretto sort of gives me that summer in a glass, but it's an easy transition to fall, especially with all the spice notes in it. I also absolutely love anything from the Western Cape, especially South Africa. I think breaking out a Pinot Noir that's a little different than your typical California Pinots will really surprise your guests, and really also it will be a great conversation point and talking points. Now, Lambrusco. Lambrusco has been my go-to for any types of brunches or lunches. This is a beautiful sparkling wine made out of the Emilia-Romagna region in Italy. It's a beautiful sparkling Italian wine. Now, they do come in all shapes and sizes. Some tend to vary on their sweetness levels, but I like Lambrusco because it is that sparkling style of wine, so it's easy for people to drink. They are a little bit lower in alcohol, so great for brunches as well as for charcuterie boards. And on top of that, they do have varying sweetness levels. So I feel like they're really good for your guests that want something a little sweet with something a little spice. This particular Lambrusco is absolutely delicious. The sweet baking spice notes really play up in those fall flavors. Then I also have a beautiful Sauv Blanc from California. Now, I tend to drink a little bit more of American wines going into fall. I'd like to say I'm a seasonal drinker, and I definitely think that this Dutchess Crossing Sauv Blanc is ideal. It has all those tropical fruit notes to still bring in those essence of summer, but it really, really pairs well with risotto and think fishes with cream sauce, all these types of things that you would have in the fall. What I also love is, especially when you're thinking about these fall flavors, is bringing in these items from a charcuterie board. So think, crackers with the types of nuts that you'd want for the holiday season, herbs and spices. I also have these amazing olives that have orange zest in them. Perfect warm as well as cold.
So when you're thinking about which wines to serve and which wines have fall tones in them, how do you discover that?
Yeah, that's great because the wine world can honestly be so intimidating. There's so much wine out there. And so what I like to do is think, what are going to be my fall flavors? Now, I like sweet baking spice, anise, more savory flavors. Think you want to bring in even some umami because this is the kind of transition you're going from lighter summery foods into foods with a little bit more spice. And so I like to make sure that I have wines that will complement the spice. We're not getting too heavy yet. I mean, we're not pulling out the Amarones like we would around the winter time. So that's why I would transition into these medium to medium plus bodied reds. And especially with the sparklings as well as the rosé. You want wines that still maintain their fruit, but also have a little bit more spice character and something that you can honestly drink with a blanket on you because it's almost about to be that time.
So when you're putting together your wine for the party, are there some do's and don'ts that people need to think about?
Yes, I would say definitely some do's are you want to make sure that you have wine, you don't want to go over your budget. So I guess that's one thing. Figure out a budget. Now, I am a fan of wines ranging from $10 all the way upwards to hundreds of dollars. But when I'm throwing a fabulous dinner party or something at home, I try to stick with wines between, I would say, $10 and $25 max. Especially if I'm having guests and I don't necessarily know what they like, I just know what I like. I know that they're open to wine. I don't want to completely blow my budget as far as picking out bottles just because they're expensive. So all of these are relatively under $25 a bottle, minus the Sauv Blanc, of course. But they're really good, again, for people to be able to try. I also love making sure that I have enough fruit in the wines, because I myself am an old world drinker. I absolutely love tannins and spice and, acidity. Not everybody loves that. And so I like to find the perfect balance between fruit and spice. So you always want to make sure that when you're going into your store, pick grape varietals that you recognize, but maybe from a region that you're unaware of. And so it's something that you can easily discuss with your guests at a dinner party. Now and then everybody can try these wines, which is really great. And you also bring something new to the table. Now, definitely some don'ts. I would say, don't worry if you have guests that say don't love your wine. I always love to pick a variety of wines. So I would say definitely make sure you have enough, and don't be offended if someone doesn't like a wine, because there is so much wine out there. And I find so many people put pressure on themselves to pick the perfect wine for their guests. And I say, you know what, eat what you like and drink what you love. If the wine pairs with the food, that's why you chose it, and that's why it'll work. People will love the wine if you're passionate about it.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Sara.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back with more My Southern Home in just a moment.